there, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to another episode of Patriots of the American Republic. We've got a big one, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. For some time now, many Americans have two major concerns. That's been the economy and the border. That's from both right-leaning news stations as well as left-leaning news stations. The influx of illegal immigrants has been so massive that Democrats can no longer hide the reality, which has gained attention from the Democratic voters, right? So it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, both sides are reporting that the migration crisis has reached high levels and everybody's paying attention to it, right? Just like everybody's paying attention to the economy, right? So during the last presidential debate, left-wing moderators publicly acknowledged the border crisis and stated it's the highest of illegal crossings in our history.
Crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration this past June.
And yet the media still wants to gaslight people regarding the threats about having an open border, right? In today's episode, we're going to cover where we were, how we got here, and what is the effect of all the illegal migrant crossings, right? What's the aftermath that we're going through? In order for us to determine that or analyze it, let's roll back the hands of time and refresh our memories of what was said during the 2020 campaign to help us understand how we got here today.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
A 15-second, if you could, if you wish to answer. Should someone who is here without documents, and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
That person should not be the focus of deportation. We should fundamentally change the way we deal with things.
I know what a crime looks like, and I will tell you, an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. I've seen some of the worst of criminal behavior. I have seen the worst of crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal, and we have to correct course in this conversation.
So based on what Biden and Harris have been saying since the 2020 election, is there any wonder we have had between 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants come into our country? And that's on top of the estimations of 11 to 22 million that was previously estimated before this administration took office. Now, let's understand it. Not every single illegal immigrant that comes over is a violent criminal. I get that. But those violent criminals are hiding amongst them. And so that is why you need a secure border to make sure, hey, got to make sure that whoever wants to come in, number one, does it through the right channel, but we got to make sure that they are not a threat to the people already inside. Why is this so out of the norm to think of? Like when you go to a stadium, right, you got to go through a security checkpoint, right? You got to go through the turnarounds. And you got to, sometimes get checked by security. Make sure you don't have any weapons or anything of that nature that you can cause harm to the other people that are inside the stadium. Why is this such a weird concept to do at our border? I don't really understand it. I mean, I know why. I know why when you look at the politics. What I don't understand is why do the normal Democratic constituents don't see it? That's what I don't get. I understand why the politicians are doing it, but I just don't understand why there's a disconnect from the regular Democratic voter. But anyhow, during the debate, last week's debate, Trump accused illegal immigrants of eating cats, dogs, and or pets, right? The left has ridiculed him for this claim, and of course, they're going to do and say whatever they can in order to go against what he says. They're going to do their best to disprove it and make it seem like it's fake news. How many times have we seen this before? And how many times has it proven wrong? Let's just take a small count, right? Inflation, right? There would be no inflation. Inflation was only transitory. The economy's great. Now the economy sucks so bad that Kamala's going to fix it on day one. C19, if you take the jab, you're not going to get sick. You're not going to get seriously sick. You're not going to be hospitalized. Well, you're not going to die, right? So the goalpost move, we just have to be patient to see this one move, I'm pretty sure. And so the left is so mind-numbingly stupid that if Trump were to say oxygen is good, they'd suffocate themselves. I mean, that's how deranged these people are, that no matter what the right says or what Trump says, they're going to do just the opposite. But anyhow, now, an image of what looks like a Haitian immigrant seen carrying off a duck. Now, many Trump haters will say that's not an illegal Haitian because the Biden administration allowed 20,000 of them to come here legally under a TPS, some type of temporary protected status. Okay, so just like you're going to have a bunch of questions about that picture, whether that's a Haitian person, a Haitian immigrant or not, I've got some questions myself. Number one, where did all the illegal ones go that we're seeing crossing the border when Border Patrol was falsely accused of whipping them? Where did those illegal Haitians go? Were they mixed in? So if we're going to play this, well, who's that type of thing? How do we know that if they're not illegal? Well, how do we know they're part of that TPS or those transfers that came over that the Biden administration allowed to happen? How do we know that's not one of the ones that crossed illegally, right? And how do we know that wasn't the one that actually accused Border Patrol of whipping them, right? We don't know. But we gotta go by what people who are there are saying. But anyhow, so if that's not them, fine. Why is the government making illegal legal? I mean, I understand Haiti's dangerous, it's a violent place, but then again, our country has also become more violent thanks to the influx. According to updated report by the FBI, crime is up overall by 37% in this country.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Biden's Justice Department just released their National Crime Victim Survey. Crime's actually up 37%.
Next thing I'd like to ask is, do these folks not understand capturing ducks or birds from our national parks is absolutely legal? I saw one video saying, well, that person looks like, maybe we don't know if they were hunting or not. Well, they weren't. They didn't have any other hunting gear. They didn't have hunting clothes on. They were just walking down the street. So it's a high probability this person got it from a park. And then some people are going to say, well, hunting ducks isn't illegal at certain times. You're allowed to hunt duck. Yeah, that's at certain times, and that's in very specific places. I can't go down to my local park and just capture a duck, right? And just carry it home for dinner, right? So maybe this person really doesn't know the law, right? Maybe they're ignorant that towards the law that you can't eat our birds that are at the park, right? So what I'd like to say is the same thing that pertains to any American citizen. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse of the law, right? It doesn't excuse you breaking the law. So if we as Americans are held to that standard, why is a foreigner not held to the same standard? That's not right. That's just not how it works. Perhaps if this person had come through normal and usual process, maybe they might know better. You know what I'm saying? So the problem we have here, in addition to legal versus illegal, as well as twisting of the law, is the culture. Perhaps this type of behavior is normal in their country. Heck, there are things we would consider strange in other countries, but that's in other countries, right? People who come here have to assimilate to our culture, not the other way around. So when you have people who, don't earn their way into America, they do things that might be morally wrong and or even illegal, such as catching ducks at a local park or birds on the beach. Now, let's take a look at some of these videos that people have put together that raise questions.
What the fuck? Yo, what is this they got on the grill?
Is that the big kiss cats?
Man, listen, man. There go a cat right there. His ass better get missing, man. Look like his homies on the grill, man. What the fuck?
that 3 years ago we had a very large population of stray cats, and now they are gone. You don't see any cats. Our visitors are kind of violent, and you'll see them threatening people. They've threatened my family with machetes. It's not a safe place. Most of the stuff that the people are saying to City Hall are true. If you put two and two together, you can figure some stuff out. But it's definitely not somewhere you want to be.
It's examples like these that have caused residents from Ohio to speak out at a city council meeting. We played a video in our last episode, but we're going to play it again, and we're going to give you a little bit more. There was another person there that described additional information that helps paint more of the picture, right?
These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into... they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, y'all can be comfortable with this. I don't know, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to, seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants, because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them.
Driving around Springfield, I was looking at the giant holes in some of our buildings. I noticed all of the old familiar spots bearing new signs in an unfamiliar language. I watched as groups of strangers walked around the city like lost tourists, and it was like a punch in the gut. A terrible sadness came over me, and I began to cry. I immediately started to think back to when I was little, walking from my grandma's house on South Fountain through downtown and all the way to Snyder Park. I feel like we have been invaded by some sort of pest. I'm angry that my friends and family are packing up and moving away. I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here. I'm angry that another country's flag was being flown in our city. I'm angry when I see our businesses and recreational areas littered with garbage left by people that do not know or understand our laws and culture and are making no attempt to learn about them. And let me be clear, this is not about race. This is about people being given the privilege of coming here from another country and having no respect for our people, our land, or our life's work. People living their life here the way they did in Haiti, angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's inside and throwing the rest onto the shelves and floors. Pulling off of the highway to publicly clean and gut the roadkill lying there in front of anyone that passes by. Stealing animals from farmers and leaving their severed heads at the side of an old school where children play. Relieving themselves in public. Making some barbaric stew out of the birds that live in our park. This is insanity, and it has to stop. What will become of Springfield? Where will we be in 5 years? The thought terrifies me.
We even have examples of some of these illegal immigrants killing bald eagles, right? Our national animal that are federally protected, right?
2 illegal migrants are now being accused of killing a bald eagle in Nebraska with plans to cook it for dinner. The sheriff's department says these are the rifles they used to kill it, but federal authorities let the suspects go after charging them with misdemeanors and are no longer returning the sheriff's call.
Mike Unger is the sheriff of Stanton County working this case. He's here now. This is one of those stories, Sheriff, that you got to reread it. Am I reading this right? Did that say bald eagle eating it? From a sheer symbolism perspective, can you get a more stark example of an attack on American sovereignty and all that it means to be American than the killing of a bald eagle?
This isn't anything new. I mean, there have been reports now for several years. They just have gone unnoticed. It's not until Trump said what he said that now it's coming to light. Now these examples are coming to light, and you can find tons of them, right? But just to give you some more context, Here's a report from just a couple of years ago.
From 2022, migrants killing dogs, stealing from homes prompt some Texas border town residents to arm themselves. And
why do you have the bird? Why do you
I catch it when
let me have the bird.
But, yeah.
I have the bird. I have the bird.
Be tickled.
I know how to hold the bird. Let go of the bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to show
No, the bird is not your bird.
The big picture.
Yeah, I am.
They told us we're not doing it because we got a chicken, a dog with its neck snapped, 2 cats. I got a rat tied up in a bag with coconuts and chicken bones.
Right.
This is where the sacrifice is happening. See everything, and there's chicken feathers in there. There's cauldrons. There's coconuts. Apparently they walked in here about an hour and a half ago. There's 2 of them together. And we've been here for over an hour. We came right after they ran off the beach. And then this they had a chicken in. And then when we were over here before earlier, I was playing pig noises, and I swear we heard a pig over there. But then the fireworks start going off.
So we've got hunting or killing birds, killing park birds, cooking them in stew, chopping their heads off, killing bald eagles, decapitating farm animals, and we also have animal sacrifices going on. People might fool certain kinds of folks, but many of us know there are cultural practices of voodoo amongst the Caribbean islands, as well as certain types of witchcraft in Latin American countries. It's not unheard of. Some may say, well, we have witches here too. That's true. And how often do you hear these people stealing birds from the parks or from their neighbors to perform their sacrifices? I mean, I think we got to keep things in context, when we're talking about these types of things. And having a Caribbean background myself, I know what happens in those islands from certain family members that I have as well. And as a matter of fact, here we have a person of Haitian descent who is also attesting to her family lifestyle and what she knows based on what her father told her from where he came from.
My very, very young years, and when he immigrated, he was one person, and they weren't sending, thousands of Haitians in one area. He wasn't eating people's pets, and he didn't practice voodoo. But he did say that most of the island, the majority of the island, does practice voodoo. The reason they eat cats is for 2 reasons. Number 1 is survival. This is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. You can't just go to a food bank like you can here, or just go to McDonald's and get some free or cheap food, unless of course there's a Christian missionary there. People in the United States have a really hard time imagining that type of thing, but it is true. Second, they do animal sacrifices for their religion, voodoo. They make these animal sacrifices to these gods for different reasons. You can do your own research on this. Do I think voodoo is a demonic religion? Yes, I do. That doesn't mean that you hate these people. These people need prayer. But you can't just take over all these people from another country and expect it to work. Not to mention, it doesn't fix the problems of that country. And there's more people left in Haiti that we can bring over. It's not racist to acknowledge that this is a problem. It's not racist to talk about these things that are happening. This is not just white Americans saying this is black Americans. You can look at the people in Springfield, Ohio saying this. Y'all just want to joke about Trump and say that he's crazy for saying that this is happening, instead of actually checking at all to see if this is happening. You want to make jokes about these things. Well, what if it were happening to you in your community? And no, it's beyond eating their pets, even though that is bad enough.
So I think it was Tucker Carlson, who stated, if you import a third world country, you're going to get a third world country. Perhaps previously given examples can be explained because of cultural differences. And, you can make an, argument out of that. Not a very good one, but it's there. However, violent crimes of rape and murder are not cultural differences. And even if they were, there has to be a zero tolerance policy for serious crimes here in the United States. As mentioned before by Jesse Waters, crime in this country is up overall 37%. Let's review some of the Americans killed by illegal immigrants over the past 3.5 years. Now, I cannot do all of them because it would probably take up an entire segment, but here are just a few.
DHS is rescinding the deportation of an illegal immigrant who killed 19-year-old Adrian Sophia Exum while he was driving drunk.
One of many surprised after the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office arrested these 3 men. A spokesperson for the Sheriff's Office says all 3 are undocumented immigrants from Guatemala. They face various charges, but the Sheriff's Office says they forced a woman into a car, then committed sexual battery on her at 2 different locations before the woman escaped, then flagged a passerby nearby for help.
Here on Live Now from Fox. Our next story, terrible in nature, and viewer discretion is advised. We are talking about a very, very sad story of an illegal immigrant that is accused of sexually assaulting an 11-year-old girl in Florida. Let's bring in the latest here with Dana Marie McNichol with Fox News, helping us to break down this really terrible story. Dana Marie.
Good evening, Mike. It was a terrifying day for that Palm Beach County family. According to the Sheriff's Office, the man who sexually assaulted that 11-year-old girl was actually living in the same apartment complex of her. So I do want to show you that mugshot. We should have that of 20-year-old undocumented immigrant from Guatemala. His name is Marvin Perez Lopez. He's allegedly accused of snatching the girl from just outside of her home, forcing her into his van where he began sexually assaulting her.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. An illegal immigrant from Honduras, now in the Okaloosa County Jail, accused of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old Fort Walton Beach girl. Deputies arrested 20-year-old Kenan Mauricio Escobar Munoz and charged him with sexual battery and burglary. Now, the girl was attacked in April, but the results of DNA testing didn't make it back until last week. WEAR's Brent Carney live in the studio tonight. Brent, Munoz was deported not long before this crime occurred.
Just into our newsroom tonight, a man is behind bars and faces a felony charge in the death of a woman from Grand Rapids.
Yeah, it's after 25-year-old Ruby Garcia was found dead on US 131 over the weekend. Police say she was shot multiple times. Now we're also learning a lot about the suspect in this case. 25-year-old Brandon Ortiz Vita. News Channel 3's Autumn Pitcher joins us from Grand Rapids. And Autumn, police telling you that the suspect wasn't supposed to be in the U.S.
Tonight, 2 Venezuelan migrants are under arrest in Houston, charged with murdering 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray. Immigration authorities say the suspects crossed the border illegally earlier this year and were released into the U.S. by the Border Patrol. Police say the men strangled Jocelyn and dumped her body in a creek.
All right, an arrest has finally been made in the tragic murder of Maryland mom of 5, Rachel Morin, 10 months after her body was found naked and beaten on a remote hiking trail. Police arrested Victor Martinez Hernandez, a migrant who entered the country illegally in February 2023 after reportedly murdering a young woman in El Salvador.
An illegal migrant from Honduras was arrested after he was accused of stabbing a teenage girl at a baseball game in Indiana on Saturday.
This coming as a new report reveals migrants are making up 75% of the arrests in some parts of New York City.
This is tragic and disgusting because the left will excuse these murders by saying, well, we have crime here as well. This is unbelievably cold-hearted towards victims. 37% more crime. Aren't we supposed to be decreasing crime and making our country safe for everyone? So just because we have crime here and murders happen, that means we should bring in or allow more? I mean, darn it, we have enough with our own. Do we really need others to add on to that? It's an absolute stupid argument and a stupid and selfish, cold-hearted position to take. Now, a few weeks ago, there was a school shooting in Georgia where The shooter killed 2 students and 2 teachers. Now, anytime something like this happens, you can bet your bottom dollar the left will use this incident for political influence to talk about gun control, right? Gun control. Almost immediately, they began the same talking narrative regarding restricting gun ownership of American citizens. If you're viewing this channel and support gun control, please speak to a Cuban that lived in Cuba or a Venezuelan from Venezuela and ask them, when your government became tyrannical, why didn't you arm yourselves and fight back? I'm sure you'll find the answer quite surprising. Now, in one of our prior episodes going back almost like 2 years, we reported how Nicolas Maduro, the president or dictator of Venezuela, was emptying out his prisons and sending his criminals here to the U.S. since we have an open border, right? It makes sense. You empty out your prisons, so that's less cost for you, and you get rid of the murderers, the rapists, and you just send them up north. You go, hey, listen, I'm going to let you out, but you got to go up north. They got an open border. They're taking everybody in. You go that way. It just makes sense if you are a dictator and you want to get rid of these bad elements from your country, right? So a few weeks ago, armed gang members from Venezuela took over a building in Colorado. This video went viral, and we can see about 4 or 5 members with machine guns or AK-47s going into apartments. Let's take a quick look at that.
The city nonprofits have lined up to help the migrants that have come here, but nobody is helping the American citizens, the residents that are trapped in these apartment complexes.
It's just absolutely unbelievable. You know, I said this about 2 years ago when I first started this podcast. Illegal immigration hurts minority communities the most. Why? Because these people don't move into rich, white, liberal neighborhoods. They move into poor minority communities, and when they commit crimes, it's usually against Hispanic and Black communities. This is why leftists don't care about the open border, essentially. Doesn't impact them directly. Remember how quickly they got rid of the immigrants that were shipped to Martha's Vineyard, right? That's what would happen if these migrants were sent to rich leftist neighborhoods. I mean, these people told us there was no crisis and the border was secured until Governor Abbott and DeSantis started shipping them to their so-called sanctuary cities. They had no choice but to finally acknowledge the problem. Now, in addition to breaking federal immigration laws to come into our country, some illegals are breaking more laws, as we just covered, right? So from killing pets and animal abuse to gang violence to theft to rape and murder, some of these criminals are not even being arrested, prosecuted, or even deported. I mean, the 2 fellows who killed the bald eagle were set free. Could you imagine if we were to do that? Like, I would never do that. But if you did, you would absolutely be prosecuted to the fullest of the law, right? So the gang that took over the building in Colorado seems to have just, come and gone, because I haven't heard or seen of any arrests being made regarding that particular. Now, it could be that I'm just ill-informed, but it wasn't plastered all over the news as it should have been, right? But one local gives us his eyewitness account.
If it was gangbangers, they would have came in here and raided the whole situation, and this place would have been flipped, because Colorado, Denver, they put gangbangers on the terrorist list. But they seen this on the footage and they didn't even come in here. So it's kind of like...
There hasn't been one single arrest since that video took place.
No. And these fools had their faces wasn't covered. But if it was some gangbangers, they definitely going to come in here. They going to indict the whole neighborhoods around here,
So do you think it could have been an inside job by the people run the government here in Denver?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting to. It's deeper than just Venezuela's invading. It's like these dudes set this up. That's how I feel.
So unfortunately, due to the political rhetoric, or possibly something more sinister, as that gentleman alluded to, many of these crimes are going unchallenged. Perhaps it's fear because people don't want to be called racist or seem like they're against immigrants, right? Because we know the left likes to muddy illegal immigration versus with legal migration, right? So this type of political correctness is very, very dangerous, and it's costing Americans their lives.
Yeah, I moved here because it's supposed to be a nice place to live, but yeah, I do see that a lot of crime has been going up, so it's definitely concerning as a resident.
And now, where is this guy?
He hasn't been arrested.
Okay, so we have to pay attention.
So the recent rise in luxury watch thefts are part of a pattern. But what nobody's talking about is that this is just the latest evolution in a trend of crimes that used to be foreign to our streets but are now the new normal. Like the rise in moped-related purse snatchings or the robberies targeting rich New Yorkers at expensive restaurants. Then there's our new crime wave targeting tourists in Central Park. And now just walking down the street with a flashy object on your wrist is a bad idea. And observers say this is exactly what people should expect when a city that has thousands of laws decides to enforce 0 of them. Because even though many things in New York are illegal, with harsh penalties awaiting future convicts, we don't have future convicts, because when people get caught with weapons or stealing, the charges get dropped or downgraded to the point where nobody's done anything wrong. Which brings us to the real reason why we've now all got to watch our backs and look over our shoulders for those who would sneak up on us and do us harm.
You know, this is absolutely frustrating because it's not about race, because I'm Hispanic. Right? I'm a first-generation American, but I am of Hispanic descent. So if I were to break the law, I would get arrested and prosecuted. And again, the fullest extent of the law, depending on the crime that I commit. These people are coming in here who are not U.S. citizens. They're breaking laws, and not just minor ones. They're breaking major ones, right? And they're not being penalized to the fullest extent. This should be a no-brainer. You break a law. First of all, you broke the law to come in here. But okay, let's just entertain the left's notion for a moment. You now commit a second offense. It should be automatic. Like, why is that not happening? Right? So it's absolutely frustrating as an American to see these people come in, break the law in some serious crimes, and some of them are not being held accountable.
Let's back up a little bit. First off, we're a sanctuary city. Even if he is legal here, we cannot call ICE.
Okay, but you still have to report that, right?
No, we don't. Because it's a sanctuary city. We do not report illegal undocumented.
So you're going to let a person who went to prison, he committed a crime in America, who's illegal right now, you're going to let him go free right now to this elevator?
That's exactly what I'm saying, because we're a sanctuary city.
So if you're illegal, they just let you commit crimes. Is that what it is? If you're illegal, you can do whatever you want to do.
So naturally, the left will, always say that if you are for a secure border, that means that you are a racist, in order to silence you and win a political argument, because they have no substance in which to debate you on. They use the false narrative to build hatred towards Trump and his supporters. I've seen emotionally stunted people say Trump doesn't like immigrants. I want to show you this video. It's in Spanish. I'm going to try and translate the words down at the bottom as I'm editing this film. But this is what the Spanish community is exposed to every single day, and it's the majority. Unlike American or English news systems that have at least OAN, Fox News, Newsmax, and then obviously the independents that we are, right? The Hispanic community does not have that. They only get their two sources, Telemundo, Univision, and they're both leftists. So this is why the Spanish community is as brainwashed as it is. I'm going to play this for you guys.
Porque es una frase que ha provocado risas, burlas, ha provocado escarnio, hilaridad, se ha convertido en memes en las redes sociales, y me parece que Trump termina haciendo el ridículo, ¿no? Ya sabemos que no quiere a los inmigrantes, ya sabemos que generalmente dice que son criminales, violadores, drogadictos, ¿no? Pero decir además que se están comiendo a nuestros gatos y a nuestros perros.
So this is what the Spanish community is forced to listen to, right? This man goes on to say that Trump doesn't like immigrants, that he sees immigrants as rapists and murderers and so on and so forth. I mean, how stupid of a comment when Trump is married to an immigrant, right? The former First Lady is an immigrant herself. So, of course, naturally, I'm sure they're going to move the goalposts once they realize how stupid that claim is. And they'll go on to say, well, he doesn't like Hispanics or blacks, right? Really? Because he literally had a legal Venezuelan immigrant talk about how socialism and communism destroyed his country, or is destroying his country, just about 3 weeks ago.
But I'd like to ask, because we're into that whole system, and I'd like to call up Daniel. Please come up and tell us about your experience in living in a country that went very, very bad, went radical left, and the experience has not been good. Please come up. Thank you. Hi, Daniel.
All right. First of all, hi everybody. Thank you for coming here and supporting the president. I'm gonna say the first part of the speech, of my story in English, then I'm gonna repeat it in Spanish in order to allow our Latino voters to understand and hear what's the situation is going on.
A week before that rally, he had the energetic, which I have, she's a great personality, Michaela Montgomery, speak at his Atlanta rally.
Hey, Michaela, I know you spoke. Just come up for a second. Come on. This young woman, I walked into, I don't know what the hell restaurant it was, but I walked into this restaurant, and we do it very quietly. We don't announce it. That's for, security reasons, everything. I walked in. She's behind the counter, and she didn't know I was coming. And she goes, "It's President Trump." She looks at me. "It's President Trump. You saved my college." And I said, "How the hell do you know that?" She said, this one is so smart, so sharp. She grabbed me. She gave me a kiss. I said, "I think I'm never going back home to the First Lady."
You were supposed to keep that quiet.
See, now, for the average politician, that's death. For me, I don't care.
Again, the media has deceived the people into thinking Trump and his supporters, like me and you guys watching this, are against immigrants, when in reality we are not. Just like our parents or our grandparents, and in my case my wife, who are legal immigrants, we want people to come in the right way. If we as Americans are obligated to follow the law, so should people who are not citizens. Come in through the front door and not the back door. So, and in addition to that, when it comes to violent criminals, well, it should be a no-brainer, and I can't even believe that we're actually debating this. When it comes to violent criminals, it should be a no-brainer. They shouldn't come in, or the immediate deportation. We do not need violent criminals adding on to the violent criminals that we already have in this country. I mean, my gosh, can we have some common sense, right? But finally, I believe this lady from Springfield, Ohio, and I feel so sorry for this lady. Just, I can hear the pain. I can see it in her face, but I can also hear it in her words. I believe this lady asks one of the most important questions to these political leaders I have seen in quite some time.
I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me. I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, "Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move." He said, "We can't do this anymore." He said, "It's killing both of us mentally." I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status, and you're protecting them. And I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me?
It's exactly correct. Who protected all of those victims that we saw in that compilation video that I posted? Who protected them? Nobody. All of their deaths are on the hands of this administration, both Biden and Harris, for purposely allowing this to happen. Guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you guys. God bless our country. God bless Donald Trump. And we're very, very close to the elections. So let's make sure that we go out and we vote. No sitting home for any of us. We go out there, we place our vote, and hopefully it's more than enough to get past the inevitable cheating that's going to come from the left. So guys, that's it for me. Take care. Have a good night. God bless.